The face is one of, if not the hardest part of drawing the entire human body, so today I've compiled a couple of art tips to hopefully help your faces not end up looking like this. Starting off with proportion checking, this is just a really easy way to figure out if your face's proportions are correct. One of the best ways to make sure your eyes are in the right spot or in the best proportions possible is by just checking the length of the eye itself. You should be able to fit an eye in between your eyes like this, so what you're going to want to do is just get a green marker or something else in a different color and then just mark off where your eye is, and then you can use that to check if it's in the middle. Now, this isn't the only thing that the eyes can actually be used for. If you take the length of your eye and then you flip it upside down, this is a really easy way to mark off if your nose is in the right spot as well. It should touch the very top of your nose like this, and it should line up just with the top of the eye as well. Now, for one of the basic rules, just remember that the length of the mouth should be a little tiny bit under the nose and a little bit away from the chin as well. If you mess this up, trust me, it can get looking really weird. To make sure the length of your mouth is correct, just remember that it should be up and touch the very tip of the eye or go through a little bit of the middle of it. You can also remember that the eye should be a little bit distant from the ears like this, and it should be about a little bit of an inch. Now, here's a random person I found on Pinterest, and I'm going to use this as an example to prove that all of these tips actually work. The distance in between the nose and the mouth to the chin is exactly as I said it was. There's also going to be a little bit of a space between the eyes and the ears, and if you actually dismember this poor woman. Now, ripping this eye off of her face, you can actually see that it fits just in between both of the eyes. And not even that, if you actually rotate it, it should fit right in between to the top of the nose and the top of the eye. Make sure to check this in all of your drawings to make sure that your proportions on your characters are actually correct. Now, these face anatomy tips should work for almost any semi-realistic style, so don't you dare say, "It's just my style." Shut up. Just like all of you, I used to use my art style as an excuse to say I was really good even though I was trash. Depending on your art style, these tips can not work, but for most semi-realistic styles, this should work almost 100% of the time. Even using Aaron as an example, you can see that even when you're doing a semi-realistic animated style, you can see that the art tips still work and still apply in the exact same way and still function the exact same. Alrighty, going on to the mirror mode. This is one of the easiest way to make your faces really symmetric. This is one of the faces I drew using this feature, and it's really easy to use. Now, you will still have to do a little bit of work, so you're gonna have to draw your circle, and then you're gonna want to draw a line going straight down it, just as if you're drawing a normal face. Now, add in the horizontal line as well. I don't know how to do this in other applications, but for Procreate at least, go to the Canvas tab, and then you're gonna want to turn on Drawing Guide. Hit Edit Drawing Guide, and then you'll see this blue ball and this green ball. Now, you're gonna want to take the little blue ball that you see here and put it right in the middle of your face. Take the green one, and then you're gonna want to move that up to your chin line like this. Now, go to your Layers tab, and you're gonna want to turn on Drawing Assist. Now, it should mirror whatever you draw on one side of the face onto the exact side of the other. As you might imagine, this will pretty much give you perfect symmetrical results on your face. It also helps you make the perfect other eye. Just make sure you put the drawing guide and line of symmetry in the right spot, or else it will get really wonky and you're gonna have to use Liquify to fix it. Now, if you're a traditional artist, I'm sorry, go use a ruler or something. I would highly recommend not getting super reliant on doing this because it only works from a front-on perspective while doing digital art. So if you switch to do traditional art, you're gonna be really bad. So only do this if you're lazy. Now, here's a tip for drawing the 3/4 view. I keep seeing this really weird problem where people keep making the eye really close to the ear, which is just not right. Here's another person I found on Pinterest, and I'm just gonna trace over her face just to show you guys what the 3/4 view should look like. Now, since she's looking this way with the 3/4 view, this will have a really big effect on where the eye will be placed. Now, if you look here, the eye actually is really far away from the ear. People tend to make this way too close, and you should be able to land a tiny little airplane on it. In all seriousness, making sure the eye is the correct distance away from the ear is really important, or else your drawings are going to start ending up looking like this. Now, the paper face tip. Drawing heads in really complex angles is one of the hardest things to do in art, whether it be looking up or looking down. But instead of trying to render the entire face, just think of the face like it's a piece of paper. This makes drawing faces at complex angles a lot easier to draw because it's much easier to draw a piece of paper than to think of an entire face. If you've ever drawn the body in cylinders and cubes, it's basically the same concept of trying to simplify it to make it easier for your brain to understand. The best way to practice this is just by picking out a couple of different head angles. But this time, instead of trying to draw the entire face, just draw the piece of paper over it with the two dots and a little bit of a triangle nose. These should be really quick and easy, and it's much easier than trying to draw the entire face. But now, to sketch over it, just lower the opacity of the layer that you're working on, and then you're just going to want to start sketching over. What you're going to want to do is also pull up a reference to help you out while you're drawing this as well. Drawing heads at complex angles is super difficult, and it changes a lot depending on how the angle is, so you're going to want to find a reference so you have something to work with. Try your best not to get super discouraged while working on this. Drawing faces at complex angles is one of the hardest things ever. Even with this one, I made two different versions because it was really difficult. Anatomy Anatomy checking is one of the most useful tips you will ever use during your entire art journey. Basically, when you have a drawing and you're thinking about posting it, make sure you do the anatomy check. To do this, make a new layer over your entire drawing, and you're going to want to trace over your character as if you're drawing the anatomy of it. This will allow you to see a lot of anomalies in your drawing that you can easily go back in and fix. On this character, I could really easily see that her head was a little bit too big and her hair was popping out too much. So what I did is I just made a new layer and went back in and fixed it. And trust me, from the head especially, I used to struggle with this a lot. Shading is another one of the really hard parts of drawing the face, but there's a couple things that a lot of people miss. There are a lot of different ways of drawing and painting in the face, but there are two things that a lot of people seem to miss. One thing I see a lot is a lot of people don't add as much depth into the eyes as they should. If you look back at the Pinterest model here, you can see that under her eyes there's a little bit of shading. This is showing that there's depth and that her eyes are being pushed back into her face a little bit more. Adding this little bit of shading into your drawing and making it a hard shadow with the square brush makes it look really clean and has a lot more depth to it. Be really careful while doing this though, because depending on where the light is coming from, it will alter the look of all of the shadows on your drawing. Definitely making sure you know where the light's coming from is really important. Now, the second thing that I was talking about is on the sides of the mouth, it actually gets a little bit darker. This is because the sides of our mouth actually has a little bit more of depth to it, so adding this makes it look a little bit more realistic. Trying to get good at drawing the face, you're gonna need to know the planes of the face. If you look it up, you're gonna get a lot of different images, and some of them are gonna look really complex. Even though learning that is eventually going to help you more, try just starting with a little basic. The best way for me, at least, to practice this is just by picking out some references off of Pinterest, and then tracing over it, and then trying to figure out and deconstruct where the planes of the face are. This not only teaches you where the planes of the face are, but also helps you figure out how the light is actually interacting with these planes of the face. Now, even going back to your own drawings and then trying to practice this will actually show you a lot of the errors that you've made in your art. Now, make sure that you actually have the planes of the face reference just next to your drawing or on your phone, just so you have a reference constantly while you're doing this. Knowing the planes of the face not only helps you while drawing characters like this, but it also helps simplify all of your anatomy on the face, and it makes it a lot cleaner and smoother to look at. Now, the final tip is actually just the simple sketch. Here's an art study that I actually did off of Cooley, and I think it turned out pretty good. But if you end up looking at the sketch, it's actually really simple. The mistake a lot of artists seem to make when they're beginning is they're trying to draw like every single part of the face. Trying to draw every single detail of the face like this while just sketching takes up a lot of time, and it makes you a lot less efficient. The more efficient way is just by using a lot less lines, or trying to exaggerate and show that there is a feature there, even if it's not fully drawn. Going back to my original drawing, you can see that when I was drawing the bridge of the nose, I literally used 2 lines. For where you would put the nostrils on the nose, I literally drew a triangle. I do this with almost every single feature on the face, just like the chin. Instead of trying to draw the entire thing or shade it, I just put a little line like this. For me, when I'm drawing the eyelids for my characters, I just use 2 little lines right above the eyelid just to show that it's actually there. Especially if you're doing a more painterly style like Cooling or Sam Does Arts, you're going to want to keep your sketch to a minimum and keep it really thin. This is because it will end up getting covered up, but you can see this being used in a lot of anime. Even just looking at Gojo from the new season, you can see that for his nose, they're just using 2 little lines, another line for the bridge of his nose, a little line under his lip to show it's there, and then just 1 longer line to show that his eyelid is there. Basically, when doing this, it makes it a lot easier for you to do line art or paint over it because it's more simple and it's easier to comprehend for your brain. For this sketch especially, it's not worth it to try and draw the entire nose with like 1 line. It just looks really strange. Alrighty, hopefully if you guys watch all of these art tips, your faces will stop looking like this, and you guys will be less trash. So if you guys want to see more art tips like this, subscribe. Bye-bye.